We are your home for exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes stories you won't hear anywhere else. This is all about Kentucky tracks, Kentucky drivers, and Kentucky fans. We eat, sleep, and breathe it anyways, so we figured why not make a podcast about it. For 11 years, we've been keeping the bluegrass covered in dirt. Now, we're doing it bigger than ever before. We are Kentucky's Dirt Racing Podcast. Welcome to another edition of Dirt Racing in the Bluegrass Live, presented by Smokehouse Grill and Buffet.
And welcome into another edition, Wes. We're getting late in the season on this thing, in the end of the racing season here on Dirt Racing in the Bluegrass Live. Our first full season. I normally say the episode number. I don't even know what episode we're at this point, man. To be honest with you, I was late getting out here into the shop where I can get some internet service to get on the show tonight. But this is the Bluegrass Restoration and Construction Studios. This segment is sponsored by Dirtman Diecast. Check him out, dirtmandiecast.com, for any of your diecast needs, or at your local racetrack. You never know, you might see him. You might see our buddy there as well. So, but man, another episode here. Just like I said, getting late into the season. The racing season is flying by. The weather is cooling off. It's no longer 98 degrees. I got to be honest with you. I appreciate that. At the same time, I hate to see it go, because I know that 30 degrees hand in a water bucket's coming soon, and racing season's coming to a close. Still a lot left to go, but man, just good to be here, and glad for a few more weeks we can still call it racing season.
Absolutely. Yeah, I never want to see it end. I like it to go year round, and it's about to that. I love a racing season, but I hate to see the cold weather coming on. Yeah,
no, I agree with you. So I've got a couple things going on tonight. One, Wes, I know you don't realize. One, I've got a different camera angle going on here tonight. So it's a bit of a struggle, because if I look at you, I'm looking down. So I actually have to look up, and I can't see you if I'm looking at my camera. I'm doing that because I've got some ideas of some podcasts I want to do this off season, where we want to interview multiple people at the same time, be in the same room with them. Talk about some history stuff, talk about some of the older days in our sport, and other things going on. The other thing is, I couldn't add everyone on our group, so we couldn't get as many people on to join the show at the same time. So if you don't care, share this out with your friends. I would greatly appreciate it if you could do that, to get some people coming on here, because I'm excited about this show, Wes. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to talk about our trip to the the World 100. I'm getting a little behind myself there, but the World 100. The other thing is, we're going to bring Michael Despain and Mike Sullivan on with us. So something huge really in our sport coming up this weekend is the Taylor County Speedway Reunion. We're going to bring them on to talk some about that. And I'm really excited about that, Wes, because like I told you before, I love talking and hearing about, because honestly, I don't know a whole lot about it, just the history of our sport.
Yeah, especially like I mentioned, I never got to watch a race at Taylor County Speedway, and just to hear the history of that track, but just the history of dirt racing in general that both of these fellas that we're fixing to have on the show is astronomical, and I love to listen to that and to pick their brain and to ask questions, and I'm really, really looking forward to it, and just so thankful that they're going to come on later in the show tonight. So really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Like I said, just can't wait. I see a couple people saying the camera's too far away. Sarah saying the camera's too far away. Stick Rod agrees with her. Well, I know it's too far away, but you know what? At this point, it's too late to do anything about it. Unless Sarah, who's watching here, wants to come out and move the camera closer. We'll see what we can do if we, see if we can't do something about that. Of course, nobody needs to see me anyway, so that'll be all right. I really wanted also people to be able to see like what all I've got going on here. While Wes is normally in his mansion with the piano in the background and living the luxury life, I'm sitting here with all kinds of like wires and an interface, and I've got to try to control all this stuff while Wes is just enjoying the luxury life. So I really just wanted the people to see what all goes on to making this happen, Wes, really.
Yeah, well, you ought to do one from the barn and have the cows and the goats and the chickens and the dogs and the cats and have all that in there. That's where you really should have shot it from.
Well, and I mean, I could get like maybe the detail trailer and all that good stuff, and just really, let everyone see what all it takes, and see my internet that's sitting here, my hotspot in front of us, because I can't get good internet. And if you turn the camera around, my garage door is up, and I'm getting beat by mosquitoes and all kinds of fun stuff, all while the show's going on, and Wes is sitting in front of the piano normally.
Yeah,
but
normally.
Of course tonight he's in the bedroom. So.
I had to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I left the mansion on the hill, and I came back home to reality. So I'm home tonight.
I'm glad you can. I'm glad you can at least come back to reality enough to where you can relate to most of us race fans who don't live in luxury. So that's that's nice too.
Yeah.
So Caution says nice bed. Yeah, I agree. Caution. He's got quite a pad back there behind him. So,
yeah.
Well, all right. Let's get to it. World 100 weekend, Wes. Man, we look forward to this all year. I mentioned last week on the podcast. We were fortunate this year to gain some sponsors here on the podcast and take in some sponsorship money, most of which paid for the equipment. Some that you're seeing right here in front of us. This thing right here, which I barely know how to use, cost a whole lot of money. We bought some other stuff. I know enough about it to get by, but we bought some other stuff, and have got a tote full of stuff that we bought with most of that money. With the other little bit that we had left behind, we decided that we would take a trip to sort of pay ourselves back. I got to looking, Wes, and I counted so far this year we've covered 25 live events here in the state of Kentucky. When you consider there are not many more weekends than that at all, maybe 4 in the racing season so far. That's quite a bit of work. But we decided with that we would take a trip to the World 100 and pay for the trip and our camper. So we paid for our camper. We paid for the campsite. We paid for all everything else that went along with it. And we bought ourselves a hoodie while we were there with the money we've made so far this year. So that was fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, I am too, and just so thankful and appreciative for our sponsors and all that they do for us, and we definitely couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. I appreciate everyone that helped us this year. Mainly to be able to buy this equipment that has allowed us to do some of the things we've done this year, and a lot of the things we look forward to doing this upcoming off season. It's all just going to be a whole lot of fun. But hey, let's talk about World 100. So we go up there. David Tilley helps us out with the campsite. We get to camp with just some awesome people. The camping alone was worth the trip,
Absolutely.
Not to mention the race.
Yeah, the camping was great. We've got to give a shout out the food. We ate good every day that we were up there. Just want to say, thank you to David Tilley, and his son Braden. Thank you to the Lay family, Charlotte and Austin and Jesse. We got to camp with them, and they fed us. It was awesome. And also got to give a shout out to Laura and James, Harley, Ellison, Caitlin McCorder. They fed us an awesome breakfast one morning. The camping and the food was really good the whole time. So thank you to you guys for all of that. But just awesome time, and we just had so much fun.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, like I said, it was just a lot of fun being there and just hanging out with everybody. But Wes, man, the thing about going to the World 100 is you know, because Jake Manley just mentioned we missed the fish fry. We did. Something
did.
we planned all day, man. We're gonna get to that. We end up doing a show there at the World in the campground. The Alien came and joined us, and ended up taking longer than we figured it would, as it normally does, and we missed out on that. We missed out on so many things. It's like once you get there, you think you're going to have so much time to do all kinds of things and see so many people, and then you get there and it's like, man, it just bam bam, and before you know it, it's time to pack up and go home, and you feel like you didn't accomplish anything. So
I agree, man. There was so many people that we didn't get to go and see. Like Jake said, I mean, we figured we'll have our show and we'll still get to make the fish fry. We'd planned on it, and I think the show went a little over an hour. It was an excellent show. Everything was great. The aliens landed. But we missed out. And we didn't get to see everybody, but we did see a lot of people. And that's one of the things that's awesome about, we go 5 hours away from home, and it's just like we're home anyway. We still see all of our friends, and I mentioned it in a Facebook post when we come home. Friends that are more like family, and that's our racing family, and we love y'all, and it's just so good to see everybody, and hate that we didn't have time to see everybody. We just need to go up there and take the whole week off next year, Josh, and just be up there the whole week. Watch the Baltus Classic and just stay. Come home on Sunday.
Yeah, that sounds good, but you'll have to ask Sarah about how that sounds, because it's right in the middle of school, man, and it's like it's tough on her. I would love it, but I'm not so sure that it would. At the same time, I don't know about a whole week, but it sounds good. We can talk about it at least, and we can make big dreams, because a whole week away. Sounds good in one way, but in another way it don't. If they could pack up and go with me, maybe we could make Brantley. Surely there's like a school excuse you could find, a history lesson, some sort of education type thing we could come up with,
exactly,
to make that work out.
Now,
I think
we'll do that.
Yeah, I think
we'll ask Spanky about all the history and things that we could go and visit, and we'll take Annabeth with us too. We'll have Annabeth and Brantley up there on a school excused field trip.
Yeah, we'll let Spanky come teach the kids some racing history. The problem with that is Brantley will start talking to him about Pokemon, and he won't get a word in edgewise. So he'll be just like me, and just have to listen to Pokemon talk and not have a clue what he's talking about. So, right. But that's how that would go. But yeah, no, I agree with you. It would be a whole lot of fun. Well, let's talk about the other thing. So, and we're going to get to the racing here in just a minute. I want to talk about that for just a second, but all right, Wes, we've had 2 Crown Jewel events this year that we've went to, the North South and the World. We've got to go to both of those events. I get up to the North South on Saturday, and I'm telling you, worst stomach virus. Oh God, it was awful. Could not get out of bed Saturday. We go to the World Friday night. Wes ain't feeling good. Saturday, he's down for the count. Man, what is it? You have a stomach virus this past weekend at the World 100. What is it with us and stomach viruses at Crown Jewel events? I don't get it. I'm kind of afraid to go to another one this year. Like, are we just going to keep trading them back and forth?
I don't know, but it was awful. Like you said, I started feeling rough on Friday night. Woke up Saturday and was feeling even worse. I mean, Sunday was bad. Woke up with it Monday morning, and I didn't go to work Monday. I was still that sick, so I was hoping it was just a 24-hour bug, but no, it was a bad stomach virus. Probably one of the worst ones I've had in a long time, unfortunately. But I kept fighting, and I fought through it, and I never missed no racing action. But I absolutely felt horrible.
Yeah, you did. I mean, I'll tell you, like when Worldwide Wes goes in the camper on Saturday and lays down and sleeps for most of the afternoon, there's definitely something wrong with him. And I hated that you felt that way. And then even we got to the track on Saturday, I mean, for the most part, he had his head down, just could tell you didn't feel good, but you were still there. But glad you didn't miss any of the racing action, because it's what we went up there for. So
yeah, that's exactly right. I hated to be sick, and like you said, it's definitely not like me to lay down and take a nap. Heck, I never take a nap. I had to feel bad, and I woke up and I told Sherry, I said, I feel rough. She said, I know you never take a nap. So, but fought through it, and still had fun, even though we got the stomach bug.
Yeah, it's we still had fun, and that's what counts at the end of the day. Next year we're gonna go to both the North, South, and the World, and neither one of us are gonna get a stomach bug. I'm calling it now, because I just, man, I hope that is the case for sure. It's been a rough stretch for us this year, 2 for 2. So, well, let's talk just a little bit about the racing. So, I mean, Thursday, Friday, you had those 2 preliminary nights. I mean, honestly, and by the way, the Racetrack Connection hotline is not available tonight. I'm using the phone for my camera, so I can only do so much. But it's just like I said. I mean, we get there Thursday, Friday night, preliminary nights. I don't know that there was much that surprised us as far as winners go. I think it went about the way we expected it would. The one surprise all weekend, though, Wes, when it comes to the racing, was the tire issues, the right fronts. And when you blow a right front at Eldora, it's not going to be an easy, light impact going into one of those turns. So a lot of torn up race cars all 3 nights. And
sore bodies, I'm sure, because we were sitting right there in between 3 and 4, and saw every one of those hits that took place down there, and those guys hit hard.
Yeah, they definitely did. Just like I said, I mean, all 3 nights, and so you hated to see that, because, like I said, it just resulted in a whole lot of torn up race cars. So that was just unfortunate. But Bobby Pierce won preliminary nights both Thursday, Friday night. It seemed like the cream sort of rose to the top as we expected there at Eldora Speedway. And then he had the bad luck on Saturday night with the right front. But again, going into Saturday, what more? I mean, it's like you couldn't expect anything less. Dale McDowell comes from 27th up to a podium finish, 3rd place. Jonathan Davenport leads right at the end of the race. He's right up there at the front in contention for his 6th World 100. But Hudson O'Neal ends up winning his first ever Globe. Don O'Neal tried it for years. He attempted to win that race. It was just one of those things, like, it was sort of like, all right, you got one guy trying for a 6th, another guy trying for his 1st. Davenport gets around Hudson, and you're thinking it's over at that point.
Yeah.
But I kept sitting there telling you, Sherry's a Davenport fan. I was telling you, I couldn't tell because it was so loud if you could get what I was saying, but I kept saying he's biding his time, and I don't know if you ever got that or not. But I just knew Hudson was waiting till the right time to make the pass, and he did and got it done. First ever World 100 win for Rocket 1. Which is just crazy to think about. All those years they never won it, and Hudson gets them there first. Not a surprise though.
Yeah, and so special for him, but and his family, but also for Mark Richards and his family for that to be the first. And Mark said he's been trying to get that win for 50 years, and it's crazy. You look at the drivers that's been in that car and the talent and what all they've won and accomplished, throughout the sport, and to never won a World 100 until 2023. So just crazy. But it's just been one of those years. And you talked about, the race itself. I think they started 30 cars and I think they ended with 12. And a lot was due to the tire issues, and you look at it and after it's all said and done, I know on the way home we talked about it, just wondering if some of those cars would have been in the mix late, if they hadn't had issues, would the outcome still been Hudson O'Neal on top at the end, which Hudson was good all weekend. Different track conditions, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He dealt with all of them and was fast. And so, he bided his time and made the pass and then held off Davenport at the end. So just a huge congratulations to him, and he took the Globe back to Indiana.
Yeah, it was really, just like I said, cool to see. I like Hudson, always have. Ever since he first started, he's always just been a very down-to-earth guy and fun to talk to, very friendly, very nice. So really was a cool thing to see him. I was cheering for him for a few reasons. One, because I like Hudson. Like I said, I think he's a nice kid. He's as talented as they come. Love to see him win. Davenport, he was going for his sixth. I'd rather see someone win it for the first time. Although at some point I would like to see Davenport win his sixth to tie Billy Moyer for that sixth Globe. But just not this year. I wanted to see Hudson O'Neal win it. Mainly, though, Wes, because, I let you have first pick. I let you have pick number one because you're behind in the Steak Dinner Challenge. You picked Bobby Pierce. I forget who Chris was on. Chris was on there with us, Chris Lowry, and he picked someone else. So RTJ still on the table. I pick Hudson O'Neal, and Hudson O'Neal, he goes out there, he gets it done for me. And I just know, Wes, as he took that white flag, as a matter of fact, I think when he made that pass, that late race pass on Jonathan Davenport, he was saying, I've got to get this done for Josh. He went out there and he got it done for me. I'm up 10-6. This is becoming just I'm walking the dog, man. Like, I'm just dominating this thing. You're not even in the game anymore. I don't know what's up.
I'm just biding my time. I got you right where I want you.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, we'll see. We're gonna see how the rest of the year goes. But anyways, I was glad
I'm saving my tires.
Yeah, I'm not buying 2 steak dinners in a row. So, yeah, I already said I'd cheat if I had to win. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
You're not going to pass.
I have not. No.
You're not going to pass tech. There won't be a green light. I'll guarantee you that.
Listen, I can pass weight. I can pass the droop rule. Whatever you throw at me, I can pass it. I'm ready for it.
No green light.
Here we go. Yeah, but that was our world. Yeah, see, Greg Miller says it's a blowout. Yeah, it is. At this point, it's just a blowout. It ain't even close. So we'll just have to. And Brantley helped me with one of those points. He got Josh Rice in there. So, all right. Well, that was our World 100 weekend, Wes. Had a lot of fun with you. This whole year's been fun, but in all honesty, it was fun. I hate that you got the stomach bug. I really do. But because, it just kind of took you down for a little bit. But it was fun just to be able to go there, hang out with you, and, just sort of, spend the weekend and just as a treat for us for the hard work all year. We got to go experience the World 100.
Yeah, and still had a cool show there on Saturday. From the Speedy Campground, when had Chris Lowry on, so that was really cool. I got to use the headsets that we had bought, and that it's cool to be able to do that and from a remote location. So really cool deal up there.
Yeah, it is. All right, well let's go ahead, take a commercial break here, real quick. Thank some of these sponsors who have helped us out all this year. Then we're going to bring Mike Sullivan and Spanky Despain on here with us. We're going to talk about Taylor County Speedway. I'm so excited about that. We heard some about it this past weekend. The history of the track, because the Taylor County Speedway Reunion is coming up this Saturday. We're going to talk about it as soon as we come back.
Racetrack Connection is a social media app designed specifically for racing. On the app, you can find a track, find a driver, review and print track schedules, and use the chat feature to communicate with other fans and drivers at any event. There's even a map feature where you can locate racetracks all across the U.S., plus many other features, all for free. Download the Racetrack Connection app today. Donnie Kaufman used to say, "It's good enough to make your tongue slap your brains out, honey." That's what we think about the home cooking at Smokehouse Grill and Buffet in Berea. Choose from the delicious options on their home-style buffet and salad bar, or order from the full menu. Not to mention their desserts and some of the best breakfast you'll ever eat. We promise you'll never be disappointed with this racing family-owned business. Visit their friendly staff and grab a bite to eat. Located just off exit 77 in Berea.
Hi there, I'm Alan Feldhouse Jr., head basketball coach at Madison Central High School. Here at MCHS, we have built a winning team. I'd like to tell you about another local winning team, family-owned and operated Bluegrass Restoration and Construction. They specialize in roofing, general construction, and home maintenance services. Just like on the court, you need a team that will work together to get the job done, and that's exactly what BRC does. Give them a call at 859-353-1133. Road Tribe.
This is Worldwide West Lanham. If you're in the market for a storage building, look no further than our friends at Barton's Insulated Buildings. With nearly 30 years in business, they specialize in insulated storage buildings, mobile home underpinning, garages, and pole barns. With 2 locations at 3739 South Laurel Road in London and 3300 Cumberland Falls Highway in Corbin. Call them today at 606-528-7221 and tell them Worldwide West sent you.
And welcome back to the Bluegrass Restoration and Construction Studios. I'm Josh Chastain. Wes Lanham joining me in Campbellsville. Mike Sullivan and Spanky Despain joining us here on the podcast as well, guys. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Sarah I'm a little bit distracted. Sarah made a camera adjustment on me here, and Brantley's trying to chase down his cat. So we'll do the best. We'll do the best we can, as I've got some action going on here in front of us. But like I said, I talked to you guys a little bit here before we started the show this evening. I love dirt racing history. Talked to some guys this past weekend up there at Eldora West. We had some conversations about the old Taylor County Speedway. So I love racing history. I know a lot of people are going to be able to show up on Saturday and get to take some part in that. I know a lot of people got to experience Taylor County Speedway. I didn't, but first, guys, tell us about the event coming up on Saturday and what everyone can expect.
Okay, it's part of the Bulls and Barrels Fall Festival. Saturday night they have the Bulls and Barrels rodeo up there. Campbellsville Schools FFA has a big part in that, and Taylor County Farm Bureau. And the event is Saturday morning. It's from 10 a.m. to noon. Now, as racers are, if everybody gets to standing around and telling more stories, we're welcome to stay a little longer if we need to. We've got some folks that are bringing some memorabilia there. I know Jeff Watson's got some things. I've got some old photos. We've got a video of the 1987 Jack Zig Memorial that was held up there. A lot of National Dirt Late Model Hall of Famers just in that field of cars that night. We've got some. I know Jeff Watson that races there. He's coming, bringing his car and some stuff. Elliott Despain, they're going to have their car there that day. I'm told Whitney McQuarrie, Dale Atwood, that they raced there. They're going to be with us. So we've had several calls, and then a lot of, not just racers, but there are folks that were officials, and there are a lot of fans. I mean, as you guys know, just coming from Eldora, it seems like you can't walk 10 feet and see somebody you know from down here. And, Taylor County Speedway, there are a lot of the fans, the older folks there, they started there. And, it was living down here, Ponderosa Speedway, Barron County Speedway, Bluegrass Speedway, those were our home tracks. But Taylor County Speedway, if you lived in Campbellsville, Lebanon, Greensburg, over in Columbia, Dare County, that was our place. So yeah. It's going to be held actually at the Taylor County Fairgrounds at the location of what it was, the Taylor County Speedway. So we're hoping to have a good turnout. I do need to say it is a $10 admission to get in. That gets you access to everything going on with the festival that day, everything except that night's rodeo. But we got a place set up, and we hope everybody shows up and comes and enjoys.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope so for sure. I think it's just like I said. I think for dirt racing fans, dirt racing people in general, it seems enjoys history. We've sort of figured that out on the podcast this year. Our most watched stuff, most listened to stuff has been on the history of dirt racing. So I'm sure you'll have a good turnout there. So like I said, Wes, I think the same is the case for you. But I never got to go to Taylor County Speedway. We were talking to Jeff Watson this past weekend. We saw him up there at the World 100, and he was talking about sort of the layout of the fairgrounds and how they still sit. I think you can still see the lay. I don't know. I've never been to Taylor County Fairgrounds, Speedway, none of it. But I think, can you still sort of see the layout? The bleachers are still kind of the same. What's that all like now?
No, actually, the bleachers, everything from the racetrack is actually gone, unfortunately.
Right.
Now, Darren Price, he's kind of the quiet person that got all this behind the scenes, that got all this going. He has told me if you actually fly over it, you can see an outline of the turns that were there.
Okay.
I think that's what Jay Watt said.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you drove by it on Highway 68 or Broadway, as we call it here in Campbellsville, what you would see, there's actually a restaurant there. That would be the back straightaway. And the grandstands actually faced Highway 68. Turns 1 and 2 were to the west, close to where AutoSmart is. Funny story about that. Years ago, that was actually Green River Ford Mercury. And a lot of folks that didn't really want to pay to get in would go and sit in the back of the Ford trucks that were parked. And you'd have brand new trucks that were parked there. You'd have people sitting in the back of these trucks watching the races, and finally the guys that own the car, they moved the cars to the other side. But you could go there on a Saturday night, and that Ford dealership would have a dozen cars in it, people watching, and you could see the cars coming off turn 2 and going into 3. But where now, if you're up there, if you see like where they have the truck and tractor pull, the grandstands, that would have been the pit area, the main part of that.
And just an interesting note about Green River Ford there, they later on went on and sponsored Terry Keltner in the mid to late 80s up there.
They sure did.
Okay.
Yeah, when a gentleman named Mike Holton bought the dealership. He sure did.
I imagine they had a lot of car washing to do Monday morning after the races. So
on a typical night, Monday, if they raced on Friday nights, usually Saturday, you can see the guys that wash cars out there. And then, if they raced on Saturdays, it was that. Also, if we had a rain out, it wasn't uncommon to have the local fire department come up, because that red clay would go down to Broadway. If you're familiar with Camelsville, I have literally seen red clay tracked from the entrance. It's still the entrance to the fairgrounds, down to where Mr. Gaddy's is, and that's a good 2 or 3 blocks.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about the event. We'll recap that here in just a minute, because I want to make sure we give every opportunity for as many people to come out on Saturday as we can. But just when it comes to the history of Taylor County Speedway, so talking about the dealership being right there, how the track was originally laid out, not much of it can still be seen there on the grounds today. Maybe if you're in a helicopter. But what ultimately happened to Taylor County Speedway? What happened to it? Why did it go away?
Well, I think it was a combination of when they started racing up there in 1963 up until I think the health department closed the place down for about 3 years. What was that, 1979, 1980, something like that, because of the unsafe conditions of part of the grandstand area. If you're familiar with Camelsville any at all, and you're coming up Broadway going out toward where Taylor County Speedway was located, when you got past where like the McDonald's is at now and whatnot, all you had on out through there was Taylor County High School, Taylor County Elementary School, the National Guard Armory, and the building where Kmart was at that time. There was really nothing out that way, and it was a deal that by the mid 80s into the late 80s into the early 90s, if you want to call it the suburbs of Camelsville, had kind of grown to the racetrack. And a lot of complaints about noise and whatnot. And I'm not going to get into it, but there was a political deal behind the scenes as well. And it was with the entertainment permit, the American Legion owned the property that the fairgrounds sat on, and still does to this day. But it was always, from our understanding, that if there ever went one full season that there wasn't at least one race contested there, that they would not be reissued an entertainment permit. And unfortunately, July 23rd, 1994, the now mayor of Franklin, Indiana, Steve Barnett, won the last late model feature that was contested at Taylor County Speedway. Paid $5,000 to win.
Okay, so there was racing then at Taylor County Speedway all the way up till 1994.
Yes.
Okay. All right, gotcha. And it sounds like a lot of what you hear about even today, sort of just political issues, city, suburbs moving closer to the racetrack, same sort of thing. What we hear about so many places today. Belleville comes to mind nationally. A lot of people talk about that, and then among others, just unfortunate circumstances for a racetrack with a lot of history. Things that are out of anybody's control, I guess, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you go right past it, it's called Bluegrass Estates. There's some very, very nice, expensive homes there.
Yeah.
And there's no way. And I know a gentleman he's passed away now, and his son's Joe Curry, the big Joe Curry. Little Joe's still out. But I know they had built some fencing up, and he wasn't real happy with the guy that was running the place. And he was like, I've got enough scaffolding. I can go up over here. What would have been where the the arena is now for the truck and tractor pull. He's like, I could build us enough scaffolding. We can all climb up there and watch the races if we want to. So, kind of like Spanky said, it was some political stuff, and I think what Ed and Vicky Hasty had their last promoter.
Ed and Vicky Hasty and David and Anita Furl were the last promoters at Taylor County Speedway. They were running Ponderosa on Friday nights, and because when Taylor County first opened back in 1963 up until the time that it closed there in 79 or 80, it ran as a Saturday night racetrack. When it came back in 83, 84, something like that, Barron County had pretty much got established as the Saturday night track in this area, and they went to racing on Friday nights, and of course they did butt heads with Ponderosa. I guess you could say they were in competition somewhat with each other. But when David and Anita and Ed and Vicky took the track over there in 94, they moved it to Saturday night.
And they really did make an effort to try to make a go of it, and it just there was some promotion before them that didn't help things there a whole lot. Not to talk bad about the guy, but he just had some different ideas, different ways of doing things, and he just didn't help things. And Ed and Vicky and David and me, they did all they could do, but they were just pushing a huge boulder uphill, and they just couldn't make a go of it.
So what were those ideas? Like what were some of the things? I'm just curious. I want to know a little bit more, Mike. You gave us a little bit. We need to hear more.
The gentleman had it. I know the one thing that really sticks out, and some of the racers liked it, but now as fans, you got to understand, Taylor County Speedway did not really have a curfew, but at the same time, you're right, town was moving around it. I don't know. The big one was if it was in the first 2 laps of a race, and a couple of guys got together and had a wreck. So say you got a single car crash. Not a flat, not like a 2-lap courtesy rule. A guy gets he gets the A-frame knocked out. We're going to stop racing for 20 minutes and give you a chance to fix your race car. And you bring the entire show to a stop. And now if you're helping somebody with a race car and, you're thrashing, you're doing everything you can.
Right.
And if you've got 3 or 4 cars, but at the same time, if you've got one guy that's, done this, here we just sit. That was one of the things. And,
hour and 20-minute red flag, guys. Just go buy yourself a hamburger, a hot dog, whatever, popcorn at the concession stand. We've got about an hour and 20 minutes while this guy replaces front half of his car.
He had some different. He did his thing. I know he had, that guy had it, and then there was another gentleman that had it there for a short time. He's passed away from cancer, named Jesse Johnson. Jesse really tried. I mean, he was probably the first promoter I can ever remember that at the drivers' meeting said he opened it with saying, "I want to thank you all for coming." And I remember racers looking at each other like, "Wow, this guy's glad we're here." But the other gentleman, I know they had a big race scheduled, and I remember there was a family that had traveled because a lot of times they would try to have a big race the night before the Jackson 100. That was in August. Gentleman, this family had traveled. It was raining. They were trying to leave. This was in 1990, and this guy's arguing with them. They're like, "Can we just get our money back? We'll leave. No hard feelings." There hadn't been the first car pulled on a racetrack for wheel packing, let alone hot laps qualifying. I remember that promoter's wife finally said, "You have got to help these people out." That was kind of the beginning of the end. But I guess on a better note, the heyday of it before that, for me personally, was the 80s there. Bob Memmer, who had UMP, actually had the lease on the track from like 87 to about around 90 or so. And of course, he was a president of UMP, which is now Dirt Car. So it was automatically going to be UMP sanctioned. Well, in 97, you had John Gill racing here. He won 13 features that year and was on his way to winning a national championship. Jim Curry was here a lot. Ray Gotzi. Kevin Claycomb was down here when he was, I think in 89 or 90 when he was the year he won the UMP championship, you had a lot of guys that were chasing points that come through here and raced. So, you know,
it was almost like a mini Brownstown.
Yeah.
On a Friday night.
Okay.
Kind of throw that out there. People that can remember, you know, some of the weekly show fields that would be at Brownstown. They're around 80, between say 86 and 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my next question too. Wes, you jump in here, knock me out of the way at any point. I promise you won't hurt my feelings. I'm just asking questions as they come to mind. We don't have any fairgrounds type racetracks here in the state of Kentucky anymore, like, you know, Brownstown is now, right across the border, really, when it comes down to it, in Indiana. So I imagine that's something that had to be, you know, pretty cool in and of itself. But then my other thing I'm wondering about, like, what was the racetrack like? What would you compare it to? How would you describe it, or what track would you compare it to?
It was always listed as a 3/8, but I think it was more closer to a quarter mile, kind of semi-banked, red clay. I'm trying to think, what would you compare it to that fans are familiar with today, Mike?
A little bit bigger version and a little bit wider version of Richmond is what I would say. Okay. And the reason I say that, in 89, 90, Mike Jewell, that's when he ventured down. 1989, Mike Jewell raced here for the first time. No, I'm sorry, 1988. He had come with John Gill when he drove the Mastersville stuff and part of the pit crew, but I just remember him saying a lot of the setup stuff he did at the Taylor County Speedway, he did at Richmond. Just because it was similar. But yeah, I would say a little bit bigger, wider, a little more banked than Richmond.
Yeah.
Red clay.
That's a good comparison, probably. Yeah.
So that gives us an idea of what the track, you know, kind of configuration was.
Yeah.
Corners a little bit longer than what Richmond would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, seemed like turns 1 and 2 seem to have a little more banking than 3 and 4. You know, and it, you know, it on a good night, you know, you could race on the top, race on the bottom. Now you wasn't going to run 4 wide on it. I mean, you know, if you got 3 wide, you were like, man, this place is full.
Unless it was in 1980, I think this was 1987. They had a big race about a month prior to that Jack Zig Memorial race that was a pro sanctioned event, which was kind of I guess you would say an off kick of the Star Series back at that time. And I remember Ned Lucas was the first man that I ever seen go around Taylor County Speedway flatfoot wide open during qualifying. And I remember Donnie Moran, Jack Boggs were there that night, and Charlie Swartz.
Yep.
And where the cars come on the racetrack in turn 4, they were standing there behind the guardrail, and Lucas was like the next to last guy to qualify. And nobody had ever seen anybody run Taylor County wide open. And on his second lap, he flat foots it through 1 and 2, flat foots it through 3 and 4, and sets fast time. And them 3 are just laughing, shaking their heads.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I see several comments of some of the drivers that race there over the years here in our comment section. But tell us some more, guys. Who are some of the biggest recognizable names that most people would hear about the race at Taylor County Speedway?
Well, the field the video that we do have, just that field of cars. Spoiler alert: Jeff Purvis won the race, but you had Jeff Purvis, Ray Gotze, John Gill, Jack Boggs, Steve Shaver, Donnie Moran, Charlie Swartz raced there. Scott Bloomquist raced there a handful of times, never won a race there. Freddie Smith raced there a couple of times. The first time he came was in '89, driving for Barry Wright in the Barry Wright house car. Then in '90, he came back and raced in the LA Gear car. Mike Head raced there the week after he won the North-South 100, but he was driving a car for CJ Rayburn. Of course, CJ raced there a lot. I looked today, about 40, I think 45 of the Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame drivers raced there.
Wow.
Jim Curry, like I said, Freddie Boggs, Billy Moyer raced there 2 or 3 times. Never did win a race. He was in the 97 race there, or the 87 race there. Went on to have a bigger payday the next night at Brownstown. Jerry Inman raced there a couple times. Actually, and I think it was on Flow, the road to Eldora, where they talked to Jeff Purvis. Mm-hmm. The Taylor County Speedway back in the 70s is where a young guy named Jeff Purvis and C.J. Rayburn talked for the first time, and that built what became Jeff Purvis's career when he started driving for C.J. Rayburn. That happened at Taylor County Speedway. That relationship did.
Wow.
And the first time that I saw him, he was 16 years old. It was a Sunday afternoon, 100-lap race. He and Eddie Pace were there because I think Eddie and Jeff's dad were in the garbage business together. And they had the Camaros and they had the wings up on top of them, but not like you see the wings of the wedge cars that were up over the roll cage at that time. These wings were mounted back over the rear trunk lid of the race car. And I think the very first time Purvis was there, a 100-lap race, I can't remember if he lapped the entire field or not, but he won the race.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool to think about. Just, the beginning of that relationship happening there. First of all with Rayburn and Purvis there at Taylor County Speedway. Just in thinking about the history of the place. And that's someone I never got to see run. Jeff Purvis. I've heard about him my whole life, but never got to see him run. So.
And, Taylor County also kind of served, we're talking about Hall of Famers, and we're fortunate enough, we've got 3 guys right here locally that Taylor County Speedway basically served as the launch board for their racing careers to put them out there to begin, to get some recognition. And that was Finn Watson, David Spear, and Fats Coffey.
Yep. And Butterball.
Okay. And Butterball. I forget Butterball raced here a lot. Yeah. So 4. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
And there, we mentioned Hall of Famers. There was a lot of guys. Robert Earl from up in Louisville. He came down here and raced and won a lot. Mickey Williams. The bunch from St. Joe. Ricky Spalding. He won a lot of races there. And then of course, David Loxton, Jack Loxton. Now, Spanky's he's forgetting too. His dad raced there, and his grandpa raced there.
Yes,
and I think your grandpa won several races there.
No, my grandpa and my dad never did actually win a race there. When that place started up there in the '60s, of course, Crip Bowling won the first feature there in 1963, and it kind of went for a stretch there. Jack Logston won a lot of features driving Woody Grant's cars from down in around the Hodgenville area in LaRue County. And then you had a stretch. Coffee got good there in the mid 60s. Yeah. There were some folks from Monticello that had a company, Cooper and York, that Morse Littrell drove for and was successful and won a lot of races. And then Butterball there in the late 60s and early 70s, he kind of got to be the man to beat. And then it kind of went back to Coffee and Finn Watson. And, you had a stretch there during the 70s. I can remember as a kid, because Taylor County Speedway is the first place I ever saw a race when I was 3 years old.
Okay.
And because my dad and my grandpa had built the last car we had, and they was leaving me with my grandma on Saturday nights and slipping out to go to the races. And I figured out where they were going. And one Saturday night, Granny tried to take me out in the backyard, and I just ran around the house and I told them, I'm going racing, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what I was going to say there, during that time, I mean, man, you on a given Saturday night, you had Fats, Butterball, Coffee, Finn, Spear, Mickey Williams, Gerald Dixon. There was legitimately 8 to 10 different drivers that would be here on a Saturday night that could win the feature event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so cool, man. Like I said, I mean, just all those names that I've heard about all my life, Wes. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We've heard about them. Everybody talks about them. We never got to see any of them race. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I've said 100 times. If you could, I just wish I could travel back for like one event, just one event to experience what it was like. It'd just be so much fun.
Butterball, for just a little tidbit on him. And I don't know, a lot of people here that remember and saw him will remember this, but he raced and smoked a cigar. And as he would go down the straightaway, that cigar would light up. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yep.
we had that as a Stump the Wes question last year, and Wes was stumped on that one.
I was stumped. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to you guys just kind of reiterating what we've heard, but the amount of drivers that race there at Taylor County that just on the national level, and then, good local and regional guys too. I mean, it was just one of them deals, a racetrack that people would hit and race, and you didn't never know who was going to show up. And just the competition on a Friday night or Saturday night or Sunday afternoon was just always really, really good. And I just hate that I never got to watch one there.
And give you an example of that, and I'm sure you probably remember this. Scott Bloomquist dropped in at Taylor County Speedway for a regular Friday night show, I think on the way to a big stars race the next night at Florence Speedway. It may have been Ralph Latham.
Yeah.
And everybody thought, well, gosh, Bloomquist is here. Of course, that was back in the days of the 18. The 0 hadn't come along yet. Mm-hmm. And everybody thought, well, everybody else is running for second place. He could not beat Fats Coffee in the 30. Right. And they ran a 35-lap feature on a regular show at that time. 35 laps, paid $1,000 to win. Mm-hmm. And he could not outrun Coffee that No.
Man, how cool is that? Well, I was thinking just a second ago, I wonder how many tracks there are in the country that between Moyer and Bloomquist, you guys mentioned those two guys ran at least 2 or 3 races at Taylor County Speedway over the years. I wonder how many tracks are there in the country that those guys have raced at 2 or 3 times and neither one of them ever won a feature. There can't be many. Taylor County Speedway is one of them. How cool! I mean, that's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I was thinking the first
time.
thing.
The first time Bloomquist was at Taylor County, he got tore up in a heat race incident and didn't get to start the feature that night. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I think you mentioned it earlier. The first time Moyer was at Taylor County was in '87 at that Jack Zig Memorial race, and he did not make the feature event that night, but he went on to Brownstown and won the Jackson 100 the next night.
Wow. Yeah, didn't make the feature, man. How crazy.
And now Bloomquist being Bloomquist, I will tell you this: on his first visit there in '97, the UMP officials were there, and he had to do a lot of cutting on his car because it was quite a bit wider than what the little thing they slid under the car that raised up to make sure the template there. It wouldn't even go all the way under.
Well, and if you remember, at the time they had a measurement from the edge of the front of the roof down to the decking in the car. And it was the gap was too narrow.
Yeah.
And I remember a young boy that was there on the car literally getting up on the front of the car, jumping up and down on that part of the deck area right there, mashing it down to make it meet the measurement.
Yeah.
Surely not, Mike. I can't believe that. Surely not. Bloomquist needs to alter his car to even race. Surely not.
Surely not.
Now, that's one of the that's kind of the history of it is really, really cool. There is a lot of other just wild and funny and strange stories. Jim Curry years ago, and Jim Curry won races down there. Actually, in '88, he won the UMP National Championship, won the Jackson 100, won the Brownstown Championship up there. He actually had a car, and he drove for Caldwell Brothers out of Indiana there. They had a car, it was a cantilever railing car. See, Jim Curry's the best to ever drive a cantilever car for any kind. And they stayed after the races one night. They hot lapped the car to figure it out. They stayed so long the police finally came and run them off. But many years ago, before that, he comes down. I think he was driving for Claude Kern, and Mickey Williams. This was during the time he was winning a lot of races, and I can remember my dad and some of his friends talking, and they would say, "Remember the night somebody shot a gun in the stands?" And I just remember hearing this story over and over. And years later, I'm talking to Jim Curry, and he says, somebody shot at me down at Campbellsville one night. And I was like, I got to hear more about this. He said, yeah, there was this guy named Mickey Williams. And he said, I passed him. And he said, I come down the straightaway. And he said, I heard a pop. And he said, I don't know if it was like a tire or something with the motor. And he said, I go on, I finish. And he wins the race. And they're over in the pits later, and they found a slug in the car where somebody shot at him.
Man,
there's lots of just crazy stories. Spanky touched on Crip Bolin. Glenn Bolin was a gentleman's name that won the very first feature race at Taylor County Speedway in '63. He had a little white coupe. In talking with Roger Pike the other day, Buddy Anderson, who's Camelsville guy, he actually finished second. But the reason that gentleman was called Crip Bolin, he had one arm and one leg, and he was the first ever winner there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just a side note, Buddy Anderson, he later drove. Well, let me back up. Buddy had drove cars for Roger Pike's dad, Leonard, back in the 50s when they raced, here at, say, down in Hodgenville and Buffalo and Lebanon and Greensburg, some of those places.
Yeah. So there's, there's a lot of great racing stories, but there's a lot of, I'm sure Jeff Watson can tell you more crazy stories like that, Finn was involved in. Fats Coffee can tell you stuff that, and we're hoping Fats comes. If that's a guy that he remembers everything. You show him a trophy he won, he can tell you about that race.
I'm sure he's got a lot of them, so it'd be cool to just stand around with him and talk about the races that he's won.
And a couple other guys that we did mention that are somewhat still involved in racing in some form or fashion today. Danny and Gene Hatcher, who Finn Watson drove for. Of course, Danny and Gene, they are car owners now. Tyler Nicely drove their car at the World 100 at Eldora this past weekend. Jeff Bland, who's the father of Jordan Bland, who competed for a while with the World of Outlaw Late Model Series back a few years ago, and now Jordan has basically assumed the role as crew chief, as an uncle for probably one of the top up and coming young go-kart racers in this part of the state, Asher Hines. Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
And Terry Keltner that Spanky mentioned. Terry got his start there. He actually won a race there one Friday, and then went to Glasgow the next night, won a race at Taylor County in I think it was '87. That
would be about right.
He had a Rayburn car that they had bought off of Ricky Spalding.
Okay.
And of course, and that's why I said, we've invited fans and crew, because I know, Billy Despain, he worked on that car with Terry that year. He and Gary Gooden and Mark Southern, and I think John Schwabel helped him, because Southern Backhoe was a sponsor for him back then. Johnny Wheeler, that's pretty much where he got his start. And, his dad, Junior, his uncles, Tommy and David, they all raced there.
You got to tell them the story about how Johnny saved up to buy his first race car.
Oh, yeah. Johnny Wheeler's first race car, he had a race car at 14. And he actually had I think it was like a ceramic dog. It was, 2 or 3 feet tall. He saved his milk money and his lunch money. He put his change in there and finally got enough money, and he bought this old race car at 14 years old. And his dad, Junior, was pretty good horse trader there a little bit, and he kind of swapped some stuff around and got Johnny a race car. And if I'm not mistaken, the second week that guy raced, he won a heat race. starting out.
That's not surprising, yeah, but yeah,
No.
it's just crazy though to think about.
What kind of car was it that he bought? What class was he running?
It would have been comparable to what they called the hobby stock class back at that time.
Yeah.
Which would be comparable to maybe a street stock class at some other places.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you sit and look at it, a lot of people might sit and say, well, Taylor County Speedway, it never quote unquote made the big time like a lot of people might refer to certain racetracks today. But if you look at a lot of the clips, the newspaper clippings going back to the old Mid-American Racing News and stuff like that, and Mike mentioned it, you think you said 45 different drivers that are currently in the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame that we know of competed there.
Yeah.
And there's another, 18 or 19 people that are in as contributors, car owners, sportsmanship award winners, something like that. So you're talking about well over 60 people that are currently in the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame that was at Taylor County Speedway at least one time. A lot of people don't know that ARCA competed at Taylor County Speedway. They had an ARCA event here I think it was in 1968 or 9.
Yeah.
And Iggy Katona from Keokuk, Iowa, he won the race, and Benny Parsons was here, and I think ran second or third in that event, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really
just
cool.
well, I think with anything like it's, a lot of times people don't realize the impact overall. I mean, a track or regionally, nationally, Dirt Late Model Hall of Famers, all this stuff a place has. Really, I think it's the same way sometimes with people. You don't really understand or realize the impact things have on a sport until it's long gone. But just a rich history there at Taylor County Speedway. Like I said, I want to see that video. I'd like to hear more. Want to keep learning about it. Love the history. Man, it's all good stuff. And I know people there on Saturday are going to be in for a treat. Just thinking about some of the folks who just might show up. You mentioned Fats Coffee there on Saturday.
Yeah, and I just thought of this, and I mean, I know we're talking mainly about the late models, but there's also some guys that and they moved to late models, but there was a gentleman named Coy Cox that raced here, and he raced mainly in the street stock division, but he won a lot of races there. There was a gentleman named Michael Newton. He was like the local cable guy, but he raced, and he and a guy named David Dudgeon had a car. They won a lot of, they were at a time like the slower late models. They moved to street stocks. Joey Daniel, that's a guy that he doesn't race anymore, but he got started in street stocks up there. Won a lot, and Mike Bullock that builds racing engines. The video that we have, he is on there. You'll see I think it's a number 88 Camaro. It's in a street stock race. He started, he raced up there in the street stock division. Of course, now he's a really good race, engine builder.
You mentioned 88, Big Daddy raced there.
Paul Weistrecher raced there quite a bit. Jeff Napper, who has unfortunately passed away, he won a race up there one Friday night. Russ Petro came in. Eddie Carrier, he won a feature one night. They came in late. This was during the wedge cars. Came in late, broke the track record, led every lap, won the feature race that night.
Was that in Black Magic car?
That was in Donnie House's Black Magic 155.
I had another guy, you're talking about coming out of the old hobby stock and street stock class that later on moved up to late model and won a lot of features up here in that hobby stock class too. Was Jerry Rucker from down Hodgenville.
Jerry Rucker. The St. Joe bunch, Benny Lee, he won several races up there. Benji Lee's dad.
Jason Wheatley's
dad, Tommy, he raced up here. So, I mean, it does cover a lot. I mean, well, of course, not only Jeff Watson's dad, but his cousin, Carl Watson, he raced up here some. So,
and Dan.
And then Dan, it'd be Finn's brother, Dan, they raced up here. There's a lot. It's almost like the more people talk, the more they remember. Oh, so and so raced there. This guy raced there. So yeah, it's been quite a few come through here.
Yeah, yeah, I imagine so. And so, just like I said, a lot of history there. And so, tell us one more time, because we talked about it when we first brought you on. A lot of people have jumped on since then.
Yeah.
Coming up on Saturday, what time, place, what can people expect there at the fairgrounds on Saturday?
It's part of the Bulls and Barrel Fall Festival at the Taylor County Fairgrounds. If you're familiar with Camelsville, it's where the county fair is and truck pulls and everything. We'll be over there, actually kind of close to where there's kind of some round shaped buildings we'll be there at. It's from 10 a.m. to noon, but like I said, as racers are, if you get to talking, you want to stand around, you can. We've got some folks bringing some things. I know Jeff Watson's bringing some stuff from the racetrack that was there. People with photos. We've got videos of it. There is a $10 admission, but that gets you access to everything that's also going there. So if, you want to bring your family, whatever, there's other things for them to do there that day as well. And so we, looking like we're going to have good weather. I don't know how well I'll do. Darren Price, like I said, he's kind of the quiet guy behind all this. He said, I'm going to give you a microphone and just grab people and talk to them, just get stories. So
yeah,
kind of relive the history of it and, enjoy the day and a lot of good memories.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like a whole lot of fun, and I know there'll be some good stories. Some of the ones maybe we heard here tonight, but some others as well, especially with some of the folks that might show up there on Saturday.
I'm sure there's a lot of stories we probably shouldn't tell.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're gonna get them from EverTrack.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those stories that's better told not on the air.
Yeah.
Hey guys, and I got to, before we get off here, and I want to wish Mike and Darren the best of luck with this deal on Saturday, and I hope as many people around here can come out as possible. I got to get a shameless plug in though.
Yeah.
Valvoline Ironman Late Model Northern Series, 20th annual Ironman Fall Classic 40 up at Atomic Speedway in Chillicothe, outside of Chillicothe, Ohio, and Waverly, Ohio. Saturday night, 40 laps, $7,500 to win. And if you're up in that northern Kentucky area or southern Ohio, we'd love to have you join us. It's earlier start times. Pits open at noon. And the hot lap's going to roll on the track around 5, and racing action going to start at 6.
Yep. Awesome.
And part of the reason we did schedule the reunion part from 10 to noon, I know, like I said, I know Jeff Watson's bringing a car, Taylor Despain. If guys want to bring cars and then be able to leave to get to the races, they can. Fans as well. So,
Yeah.
If you're traveling, go to a race somewhere, and if you're heading towards northern Kentucky, just go on across the river and go see Spanky and Chris Tiller.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Sounds like a good day. Early enough in the day where you can go enjoy some of the history of Taylor County Speedway, and then go check out racing action later on Saturday evening. So sounds like a fun day of dirt racing. All right, Wes, I'm giving you a chance. You got anything you got a question or something to add? Well, you got anything for us before I let these two gentlemen go?
Yeah, there was something I was going to ask him. You was talking about that place being a start for a lot of people. Wasn't that where Gerald Newton got his start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask that because that's a family. I'm close to him and his brother Troy, and it's just a cool thing to talk about. As you mentioned, a lot of guys got their start there. So tell us about that.
So Gerald Newton worked for a guy, I think his name was Thad Smith. It was called Thad Art. And he worked on, he did some screen printing stuff. Now, Troy was like myself, Jay Watt. We were all kids just running around there. But Gerald got started printing some T-shirts and in some way got hooked in there with Scott Bloomquist, and then, approached Carl Korbarker at Arizona Sports Shirts when they moved to Indianapolis. And I mean, Gerald is Gerald is an industry leader. Not only what he does, but he does a lot for racing that people will never ever know about. And yeah, he started there, just with some T-shirts and some stuff. His dad, Robbie, owned a race car there. Lewis Brady, there was a guy we didn't mention. Lewis Brady raced. Lewis raced there a lot. Lewis raced a car for Robbie and them there.
That's
and then,
right.
I think Robbie's brother Donnie, they had a car they raced. So Gerald Newton, that's where he started from.
Yeah.
And it's cool, that's where he got his start, and you see where he's at now. And like you said, he does so much more for dirt racing than what a lot of people know. And I mean, just a cool all around deal there. So I had to mention that.
Well, and we can't not mention, a guy named Tim Tungett got his start there driving racing with James Ralph Ratliff, who is Justin Ratliff's dad.
Right.
He happens to own Dalton Wilson's karts on the Lucas Oil Series. So Tungett there. He drove a blue car. I can't remember what type it was. Number 44.
44.
And won several races and started in the street stock division, and later drove for Jody Keltner. Switched his number to 18 because he was a fan of Brad Doty's, and won races up there.
Oh wow! Okay, hey,
and to quote him, I gotta say it: the legend of the beast was born.
Sure was.
Yeah.
So I gotta add this. I ran into him at lunch today at Burger King and tried every way in the world to get him to buy mine and Sherry's lunch, and he gave me deaf ears. He didn't even hear nothing, but I said, hey, Tungett, talk to him. I was like, hey, line was huge. I said, you buy my lunch today? He never heard a word.
Let me tell you a funny one on that, about him buying lunches. When his daughter Candace and Justin Ratliff, they dated when they were teenagers. Justin had sent Candace to McDonald's. This is the old McDonald's in Camelsville. That's the same location, but the old building. And she's in there getting lunches for like Gullett and Justin and her and whoever else was there at the shop. Tim, I think, was coming through the drive-through. Either he saw her at the drive-through or he was at the drive-through, and he said, hey, see that girl right there? I'll pay for their lunches. Or I'll pay for her. I think he got a lot bigger bill than he was bargaining for. So he's still trying to catch up from that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wes, you should have told him. You should have told him, Wes, said, look, you transportation director over there, you in the khaki clique over at the board office. You can buy my lunch, man.
Yeah. He was in khaki clique attire today for sure.
Yeah. I guarantee you.
Yeah. I imagine so. That's funny. So, well, it'll definitely be a good time. Be sure and go out and join those guys at Taylor County. Here's some more of these good stories and more. Wes, we talked about this a little bit. I won't be able to make it. Are you going to be able to make it over there this weekend? What's your plans? You up in there? What?
I've got to work. I would love to make it over there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. If I could just sneak over there on lunch. I really want to try to make it, but like I said, I gotta work on Saturday, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if Worldwide's not there.
Well, thank you guys for letting us come on and promote this, and hopefully, we hope we have a great turnout and see everybody there.
Yep, absolutely.
And thank y'all for what you're doing for racing in the state of Kentucky.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. It's a joy to have you on here, and thank you for everything you do. Thank you, Spanky, for being the best at what you do. He is, ain't he?
Yeah.
And I mean, way back at Taylor County.
Look here, Madison Isaac says the best announcer around, Mr. Spanky. You got it right, Madison. That is exactly right.
Far from that.
Yeah,
well,
bullseye. Yeah. So
you're the best in our eyes, Spanky. So
yeah, and that's all that counts here on dirt racing, the bluegrass lives.
And there was something else I was going to add. So that little boy that was running around the house at 3 years old is the same. How old are you now, Spanky?
53.
same at 53 because we went racing. We were racing. I don't know, week before last. Me and him and Jake, and that same little boy. Let's go racing. Wes texting me, "Where are you going today, Worldwide?" I got to work and hadn't planned on going, and we ended up going to Rock Castle and had an awesome time. So. Yeah. It's just it's those times and memories that I cherish with Michael Spanky Despain, and those are just memories I'll have till the day I die, and I just appreciate you and all you do for the sport, Spanky.
Well, I appreciate that, and I thank you for your friendship, sir.
If you go to a race with this guy and don't have fun, there's something wrong with you.
That's exactly right. And then you throw me and Jake in there. I mean, they see us coming, and they said, "Look out!" They said, "There's the Campbellsville Mafia." I said, "You got that right."
Yeah.
We got Jeff Evans to thank for that.
Yeah. Jeff Evans said, "There's the Campbellsville Mafia." I said, "Yeah, that's pretty accurate."
Yeah, I imagine that being the case. So, guys, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you, like I said, being on here. Looking forward to Saturday. Hope you have a good turnout over there.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thank you all. Have a good night.
Yeah, no, so, man, like I said, I mean, just thinking about history, we got to hear a little bit more of it here on the podcast tonight, and, talking about that reunion coming up on Saturday. It'll be a whole lot of fun. Love to hear about it. Hear, these guys just talk about the history of our tracks and drivers and everything here locally in our sport. Can't wait to get to more of that. Like I said, this off season got some big plans. I've got some big plans, Wes. I don't know if you know about it. I've always got some big plans, but certainly for this off season to dive into some of this stuff and the people, drivers, and the history of racing here in the state of Kentucky. I want to meet some of them and get in front of them. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Looking forward to it, and especially those two gentlemen right there, Mike Sullivan and Spanky Despain, world of knowledge, and when it comes to dirt racing, nationally, but especially here in the state of Kentucky, those two right there are pretty sharp, and we'll definitely have them on in some future shows for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly go real quick to our weekend outlook here, Wes. I'm gonna have to have your help with this. I jumped on here like with I think it was maybe less than a minute to go before we went live. So I don't know what else. I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked around yet. I know 191 Speedway grand opening this Saturday night. We shared that post earlier on our Facebook page. I know a lot of people's looking forward to that. Their first weekend back after that track's been closed down for several years. So that'll be a whole lot of fun there. So I'm just going to go through these, and you help me out as best you can. So I know Thunder Mountain, they're having a makeup from last weekend.
Yeah,
I believe
3,000 to win, 604 crates, 1,000 to win, front wheel drives, super stocks have been added to the card. So should be a really good night on the mountain there at Thunder Mountain Speedway. Hate that they got rained out there last Saturday, but they're going to make that show up this Saturday. So that should be a good one.
All right. So is Rockcastle's off, right?
Rockcastle's off.
Lake Cumberland's off.
Lake Cumberland's off.
Is Mud Lick running this weekend?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm wanting to think that they may be off this weekend as well.
Okay. If Thunder Mountain's, or I'm not Thunder Mountain, we know Thunder Mountain's running. Mud Lick's running. Be sure to go out and support them, and any other track around that's running too. We want to get out and support our local racetracks. Wes, it's been another fun show. So much fun. Thank you to everyone on here for joining us. It's just been a blast looking back on Taylor County Speedway, talking about our World 100 weekend. Thank you all, like I said, everyone that tuned in here and joined us. You can always listen to the replay on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of those places where you listen to podcasts. Until next time, we'll see you at the races.
Thank y'all. Have a great night.